Democrats hitch their wagons to the most toxic Senate candidate maybe ever. Let's check it out. And welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. Graham Platner's scandal du jour has him answering yet again for his salacious toxicity. The Nazi-tatted Maine Senate candidate just got blown out of the water in the New York Times last night. Multiple ex-girlfriends speaking to the left-wing paper confirming Platner's affinity with Nazism, alleging Platner knew that his former tattoo was indeed the symbol that SS concentration guards had branded onto themselves in unity as they slaughtered millions of Jews in the Second World War. How twisted is that? Claiming that Platner joked about having a Nazi tattoo, calling it my Totenkopf. Also allegations of physical and emotional abuse in relationships as well. He's trying to win the nomination for the Party of Women. All of which Platner is now denying, in addition to so many other scandals that he has faced in the past several months. He ran to MS Now. Take a listen.
There are some allegations in this piece that I just want to be kind of unequivocal about are simply not true. Anything alleging physicality, anything alleging that I knew what my tattoo was, these are the statements of someone who's politically motivated.
All right, so that's his defense, right? Lindsay Fifield is the name, the most quoted in the Times article, a multi-year relationship that Platner had when he lived in Washington, D.C. Platner telling the audience last night on the show that it's all nonsense because Fifield has worked for the conservative cause in her past, and that is true. And that could actually save Platner in the primary on Tuesday. He's got some deniability to these claims because of that, although there's so many other claims to this guy, not just what she alleges. Fifield claims that Platner knew his tattoo was indeed a Nazi symbol. She also says that Platner once twisted her arm kind of behind her back and shoved her into a bedroom, locking her inside, forcing her to stay inside that room until she calmed down, which is basically like kidnapping somebody. She says her personal politics are not motivating her in this moment. She just thinks people should know these things before they make him a U.S. Senator. What's interesting, though, is how Fifield says she came to speak out on all this. She says that the New York Times actually came and convinced her to do it, that they effectively stalked her to get her to do this. In early April, she says the New York Times came to me. I asked how they got my number. She said she was not interested in sharing her story. They said, but wait, there are other women terrified to tell their stories as well, and you need to band together. The paper saying they will help her do this. They'll protect her, saying that men can't keep getting away with this. So she says she had a story. The New York Times found out about it. They came to her. She tried not to do it, and they kind of pushed her to do it along with other women that had similar stories. She says the Times kept coming back wanting more, wanting screenshots, wanting evidence, all of which she provided. But then she says the paper didn't publish it. As far as Fifield's claims on Platner's Nazi tattoo, Platner was asked about that as well during last night's 26-minute interview on MS Now. Take a listen.
I had that tattoo for 17 years. It's a skull and crossbones. I got it with other Marines who I served with in Iraq, in Croatia.
The Times basically reported that they saw texts of hers in which she basically said that you had a, quote, Nazi tattoo. Now, again, this is a text that got sent, so like we can place the time, right? This is in August. How does she know it's a Nazi tattoo in August of last year and you don't know it's a Nazi tattoo in August of last year?
Well, she certainly didn't send that text to me. So whoever she sent it to and was talking to, that's, I can't say why, but I will say that I certainly didn't know.
It doesn't seem like that's a very plausible excuse, now does it, if you can get picked apart on a friendly network? But for a moment, let's set the baggage aside, right, and look at how Graham Platner became the new darling of the Democrat Party. And the reason is very simple. He is actually central casting for this job. There's a reason why Republicans are so nervous about Susan Collins' seat. He's kind of a perfect candidate for where he's running. He's a rugged oysterman from Maine. He's got this great story to tell, pushing socialism and hitting on affordability, talking about hospitals, rural hospitals shutting down. He just feels like central casting for that seat, which affordability is his big thing, right? Although it's a disaster created by his own political party, is just a perfect topic in this moment as well. So he plays off like he's this poor, downtrodden oysterman. He's a veteran that's got PTSD and all these issues, and he's just trying to make it in Maine. But Platner's perfect persona in this moment is actually very inauthentic. Socialists literally built this perfect candidate for that Maine Senate seat out of Graham Platner, created by these two, Daniel Moraff and Leanne Phan, according to the New York Post. Platner was coached by this pair of Ivy League educated radical Democratic socialists, replicating a playbook that they have used in Nebraska and Iowa as well. And I think this is we're going to see this become kind of the future of politics for the Democrat Party. They're going to start manufacturing these candidates and creating actors, because why not? It's very easy to dupe the American public. They took a rich kid. That's who Graham Platner is. He fought and he served, and we respect him for that. But he grew up a very rich kid. He attended an $80,000 boarding school. He had a very successful father, an extremely successful grandfather. His father bought him his house, just bought him cash, his home that he lives in, which is interesting. And they morphed this guy into a perfectly focus group candidate that appeals to the broader Maine electorate. Nothing about Graham Platner is authentic. And on top of that, as you see here, and as we've seen over the last few months, he's got more baggage than a 747 to Tokyo. And he's fighting for his life right now using phrases like self-medicating with alcohol, straight from some kind of public relations playbook.
In this piece, there's a lot about my struggling, not being a good boyfriend, certainly self-medicating with alcohol. And I've been very upfront since the beginning of this campaign that was a pretty dark period of my life after I came back from my combat service. And that's what that kind of life looks like. And so there are things in this that I absolutely will take responsibility for and have been speaking about openly for months now. But those serious allegations are just not true.
All right, with that, we turn to Amy Swearers. She's a senior legal fellow at Advancing American Freedom. She's also a friend and former colleague of Lindsay Fifield. I want to start right there. You read the piece, you hear what Lindsay says, what she alleges there. They're saying she's just a political operative. She's a conservative. She's worked in Washington. That's where she met Graham Platner. What's the defense of that?
Look, I've known Lindsay a long time, almost a decade. We were colleagues. We've remained friends after we both parted separately from the Heritage Foundation. Look, Lindsay's a conservative. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. She's very clear about that. She works for conservatives, continues to work for conservatives. But to suggest that this is some political operative hack who's coming out with a story just to sink Graham Platner is absurd. It's a disservice to who Lindsay is as a person, and I think it's a disservice to the pure facts of the situation when you look at this. Yeah. Lindsay, she's married to a Democrat. You read her social media, she's actually quite open about that, right? To suggest that this is some underhanded political operative who would stop at nothing because she doesn't respect Democrats, it's just absurd. And on top of that, again,
go ahead. Not to cut you off, but is there contemporaneous evidence of what she's alleging from years before Graham Platner launched this run for Senate?
Well, absolutely. I mean, look, you can go through the piece itself. You can go through Lindsay's social media accounts, but you also have the sheer fact of, I as her friend, look, did Lindsay ever come to me and say, oh, this guy named Graham Platner was abusive to me? No, but this is perfectly consistent with things that we've discussed as friends. I'm one of several people who she's spoken to well before this, years prior to this, about abusive relationships that she's been in. To varying degrees of specifics. This is not something that came out of the blue. We're like, oh my goodness, we had no idea Lindsay had ever dated someone who was abusive to her. It's like this is something that several of us have known. And when you combine that together with the screenshots that she has, the evidence is there for sure.
Yeah, it's a heck of a story. It is interesting. Amy Swearers, we appreciate you coming on and kind of giving Lindsay's side on this story as a friend of hers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim Rice is a D.C. bureau chief for the Daily Wire. Amy Robbins, a Newsmax contributor. Good to have you both here. Tim, we'll start with you. They built this perfect candidate to take this Senate seat Can he survive the airing out of all his laundry, though, is the question. What do you think?
You know, I think it's getting harder and harder for him to survive, although, you know, I have to immediately couch that claim by saying he's survived everything else thus far, right? Which I think tells you more about the Democratic Party than it does even about the main voters or about Platner himself, right? Anti-Semitism, not disqualifying, making offensive comments about disabled veterans, Purple Heart recipients, not disqualifying. Clearly at this point, right, being present on sort of sketchy dating apps and having credible allegations of being an abusive boyfriend, not necessarily disqualifying yet. Right. So ultimately, I think that the voters in Maine will not want to elect this guy, but clearly he's got a ton of political support from the party, and he has no intention of going anywhere.
You know, Amy, it's interesting because I would think, you know, almost as much of a turnoff to people, you know, it's not so much that he's got all this baggage, but that he's just inauthentic. I thought that piece from the New York Post, you know, and then they dug and found what I think a lot of us knew, which was that this is a rich kid that's cosplaying as a struggling Maine oysterman who's perfect in this moment, right? But he's not. That's not what he is. He doesn't have a mortgage. He's probably never been in debt in his life. He's had a pretty easy run, with the exception of the military and his service, which again we much respect. But you wonder, what will are people aware of that? Are people aware of who he really is and not what he's posing as?
Well, I think that's what we are all trying to get out there and expose. I mean, Graham Platner is a seriously problematic candidate, Rob, for all the reasons that you mentioned. I mean, even with all the mounds of evidence that is piling up against him, I think what is troubling is that the Democrat Party will not disavow him. They will not separate themselves from him. They will not ask him to stop his candidacy. And I think it's very troubling because right now, he is the very height of hypocrisy for the Democrat Party. We cannot forget that for the last nearly decade, the leaders in the Democrat Party, the leftist media, they have been fear-mongering the American people into telling us that President Donald Trump was a threat to our democracy. They compared him to fascists and Nazis. They called him Hitler himself. And yet here they are warmly embracing an actual communist with a Nazi tattoo. And it's very telling of where the Democrat Party. Yeah, you can't. And it's very telling that you've got.
You really can't.
People like MSNBC who just continue to give him chance after chance to explain away his troubled past.
Bernie Sanders and Bernie Sanders and Chuck Schumer out there, the Jewish senators. I have no problem with this. Let's just get the power in Maine, and that's what we really want. I got to leave it there. I got a heavy show, but thanks so much, Tim Rice, Amy Robbins. Good to see you both.
Thanks, Rob.
All right, coming up next year after the break, Tom Homan on Democrats stirring up chaos at a Jersey ice facility for the last 2 weeks. And then later in News from the Left, nothing says socialist like dropping 10 grand to go to a basketball game.
A Social Security update. Millions collect Social Security, but 70% of Americans don't get their full benefits. Now, a new report shows how to boost your Social Security by as much as $188,000. Author Matthew Allen reveals 5 key strategies in a new report. Newsmax calls it the best guide for retirees. Everyone needs this free Social Security report. Act today to get your full benefits.
Guys, wake up. Testosterone boosters are useless if they're not also fighting cortisol, the hormone that makes you soft after 40. Ageless Male Max does it all with patented KSM66 to boost testosterone and balance cortisol. Get Ageless Male Max at these fine retailers.
This is keratin debris, where nail fungus grows. Nonix Nail Gel cleans out fungus by removing keratin debris. Using Nonix, 90% of nails improve. Get clinically proven results. So effective, it's money-back guaranteed.
If you have wet AMD or DME, you never want to lose sight of the things you love. And your condition doesn't have to steal the moment. Long-lasting EYLEA HD delivers powerful vision improvements that can save your vision for the future. EYLEA HD is the first and only treatment for wet AMD and DME that gives you a chance for 5 months between injections after 1 year of successful response. Don't take EYLEA HD if you have an eye infection, eye pain, redness, or are allergic to it. Eye injections like EYLEA HD may cause eye infection, separation of the retina, rare but severe swelling of blood vessels in the eye, or increased eye pressure. There is an uncommon risk of heart attack or stroke. There's still so much to see. Ask about next generation Eylea HD, a treatment retina specialists trust.
All right, welcome back. The riots, the mayhem continues outside the Delaney Hall ICE facility in Newark, New Jersey. This is 15 days in a row of this now. These radicals continue to fight, spurred up by Democrat politicians, to try and end all immigration enforcement in this country. This is just continuing on for half a month. Activity seemed to be slowing after the local police got involved, but not last night. Newark's liberal mayor, Ras Baraka, the guy who was arrested outside the same facility last year, is withdrawing the city's police presence a bit too early as well, pulling them out, saying given the significant reduction in unrest, the city will begin scaling back its presence at Delaney Hall. NPD will focus on traffic management and public safety, ensuring the protection of both protesters and motorists as well. The Border's our Tom Homan firing back, saying he'll regret that decision. The mayor will regret the decision. The riots launched after a handful of illegal immigrants that were being held there pulled a hunger strike stunt, refusing to eat the food that they were given as they're being held for deportation because it's not customary to what they have in their home countries. So after breaking into our country illegally, they're complaining that they're not being fed the stuff from where they came from. Think about the irony of that. New Jersey Democrat Senator Andy Kim stirring the pot.
I talked to several women who were pregnant that were not getting the care that they needed. I met a person who has, stage 3 lung cancer and not getting the medical care that one would need. And just over and over again, people not getting their medication. I saw how they are organizing the medication. They just do it all by handwritten lines in a notebook. There's no real coordination in any sophisticated way. It's not just about the conditions inside Delaney Hall. It's the fact that many of them have been there for 8 months, 10 months, 12 months without any movement in their case.
The Border's our Tom Homan joins us now to respond to that and what we're seeing in Newark. And good to see you again, sir. Let's start right there. Your reaction to the new senator from New Jersey and what we're seeing in Newark at that ICE facility.
Lies, lies, lies. I went up there. There was never a hunger strike. They claimed there was a hunger strike because a couple of people didn't go to the cafeteria and eat food. But what they didn't know is that they're ordering food from the commissary and eating it in their rooms. So nobody missed a meal. No hunger strike. They said it was overcrowding. Wrong. 700 people in the facility. It's a 1,000-bed facility. There is no overcrowding. As far as the medical issues, we asked. I had a conversation with the governor. Give me the names of people that weren't medically treated properly, in your opinion. They couldn't give me a name. They said, well, we're just hearing this. I went there. I walked through the medical. I talked to the doctors and nurses. I went to the cafeteria. I went to the outdoor rec, inside rec. I went to the rooms. I went to the showers. I went through every square foot of that detention center. Matter of fact, the outdoor recreation has really sophisticated workout equipment, which shocked me. And I showed up the next day unannounced. I went to the cafeteria. I ate the same lunch they ate, surrounded by detainees. Of course, I had a security detail with me. I ate the same exact food they ate. Spaghetti and meat sauce, green beans, charred beans, a dessert and fruit drink, and rolls and butter. And I'm a pretty big guy, and I didn't finish the meal. So it's all lies, lies, lies. This is a very well-run facility.
The point is that they're still furious that you're deporting all the people that they brought into this country, and they are going to continue to antagonize the process for as long as the process continues on.
You're exactly right. They didn't say squat for 4 years. They were complicit in millions of people coming to this country. It wasn't an accident, it wasn't mismanagement. That was by design. Bring millions of people into the sanctuary cities and the Trump census rule to be counted in the next census. We need more seats in the House for the Dems. Let's get another Democratic administration, give amnesty to 20 million people. Now they think they're future Democratic voters. They sold this country out for future political power, and they're pissed off right now because ICE is arresting people at record numbers. We're ruining their long-term plans. That's what it's all about.
And you're getting your $70 billion. Senate Republicans are finally passing the legislation through reconciliation. Not a single Democrat would vote for it. You're going to get your full funding until the end of Trump's term, the next 3 years. With that money, and with the additionally with also self-deportations as well, what do you think our immigration situation looks like at the end of Trump's term?
Look, we'll remove millions of people, but I'm glad they finally funded us because I'm not happy with the numbers right now. I mean, maybe the agents are being paid, but there's no overtime waivers. There are people that have capped out. So we need that money to fund the overtime waivers so they can go out there and make arrests. We need to pay our contractors that create target packages so we know where to go, who to look for, and where more likely we're going to find them. We need to pay our detention facilities, our medical contractors. Now that we get funded, and I hope the House passes it, you'll see arrests increase. You'll see a lot more agents out on the street, and we can get back to doing the job. The numbers are still good, but I'm not happy. People say, well, the historic numbers, you should be happy. No, we need more numbers. We need more deportations. And this budget's going to help us do that. We got to hit this hard. We got to hit it hard for the next 2.5 years until the end of the Trump administration. I got full hope that we're still going to have a Republican administration after that, and we're going to keep doing this job.
I've got 15 seconds left. Just out of curiosity, do we have a number right now of how many illegals we think are in the country?
Look, all the studies been done by conservative groups are anywhere, I think it's over 20 million. Some groups say as high as 30 million. So, I'll take the higher number. I'll take the 30 million. That gives us, let's go get them. And, but most studies says, they say 12 million. The left says 12 million. There's been 12 million for 20 years. I think it's closer to 20 million. Some groups say 30. I'll go after 30, no problem.
Wow, that's something else. Tom Homan, what a job. We appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
California is still counting votes. 3 days later, still counting. They're not even close. And Spencer Pratt's strong second-place lead over Nithya Raman in Los Angeles is fading. The DOJ is investigating. That's coming up next. Plus, the radical, squad-backed Adam Hamawi is set to cruise into the U.S. Congress come November. Are voters in his New Jersey district, though, aware of his past ties to the terrorist known as the Blind Sheik? Brent went to Trenton, New Jersey earlier today to find out. It's all coming up.
This little light of mine has been dark for quite some time. Then I let in the light to help see more of the light inside of me.
I needed more from my antidepressant, so my doctor added Caplyta, proven to provide greater relief from depression symptoms than an antidepressant alone, building on my progress without starting over. Weight gain and reported sexual side effects were not common.
Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke. Caplyta is not approved for dementia-related psychosis. Call your doctor about new or sudden mood changes, behaviors, or suicidal thoughts right away. Antidepressants may increase these risks. Report fever, confusion, stiff muscles, which may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High cholesterol and weight gain may occur, as can high blood sugar, which may be fatal. Common side effects are sleepiness, dizziness, nausea, dry mouth, feeling tired, and diarrhea. These aren't all the side effects.
Ask your doctor about Caplyta.
Help see more of the light inside of me.
We've been building chainsaws for over 100 years. Now that century of cutting comes in a mower. New blade, same bloodline. Right now, save $50 on select mowers. Steel.
When we started Allegiance, we were shocked to learn how many American flags are actually made overseas.
If there's one thing that deserves to be made here in America, it should start with the American flag.
At Allegiance, we do it differently. Flags 100% made in America, by Americans, with American materials.
Join our pledge to make the American flag truly American.
Visit showallegiance.com to get your high-quality American flag today. That's showallegiance.com.
My heart has experienced life-changing wins, losses, and countless miles. To keep living at my speed, I trust Cunol CoQ10. CoQ10 is the #1 cardiologist-recommended supplement for heart health. Cunol, the brand I trust.
There are only a few men I'd trust with my life. 2 of them built this wallet. I've known the guys behind Proof for nearly 20 years, and we've been through hell and back together. When they told me they were building the wallet, I just said, build me now, I'm in. This isn't some fashion piece. This isn't just some trend. These wallets are a direct reflection of the kind of men who built it. It's built to last, built to function, and designed to carry everything you need and more. If anything happens to it, they'll take care of it. No questions, no fine print. If you knew the guys who created this wallet, you wouldn't carry anything else. Go check them out, because they built this thing right.
The road to greatness is long, but greatness isn't just forged from within. It has to be proven on the greatest stage of all.
The hype is real! This is the moment we have all been waiting for.
When you're in the news business, it never stops. News is always breaking, and it's my job to get you the news, no spin, no BS. If you don't believe us, just watch us.
Watch Finity, weeknights, only on Newsmax.
All right, we are back with breaking news tonight on Iran. Some firing amid the ceasefire there. The United States military saying it shot down 4 Iranian attack drones launched towards the Strait of Hormuz, saying the drones pose a threat to maritime traffic. U.S. forces subsequently struck Iranian coastal surveillance radar sites in Goruk and Keshem Island as well. We will follow if anything else happens. All right, California is still counting votes 3 days later. The late mail-in ballot dumps, of course, are hurting Spencer Pratt and helping the 2 wacko lefties that he's up against in the top 2 primary there in Los Angeles. Nithya Raman is now just 30,000 votes behind Pratt. 70% of the vote is in at this point. After 3 days, only 70% is in one city. Over 300,000 ballots still outstanding, and you know which way they're mostly going to move. President Trump writing on Truth Social, watch California, everybody. Our election process is as bad or worse than any third world country. Americans are ashamed what's happening. First assistant attorney for the Central District of California, Bill Asaley from the DOJ, announcing there is evidence of election fraud in California. He says there's evidence of fraud. Adding, California's election system has serious structural vulnerabilities. Universal vote by mail with no voter ID requirements creates conditions where fraud can go undetected and unpunished, eroding public confidence. Well said. Multiple investigations are underway, he says. Susan Crabtree is the senior national correspondent for Real Clear Politics. Elizabeth Barcohana is a California GOP delegate. And good to have you ladies both here on a Friday night. Susan, I want to start with you. An investigation into this. What do you think is happening in California?
I think it's happening. It's just a metaphor for the incompetent government that is California. From the LA city to the governor's race, to the governor's mansion. I wrote a book about it. I was all about corruption, California corruption, before it was cool. What's happening here is that it takes too long because they're allowing so much time for votes to come in. 7 days, and then they have to allow time, of course, to cure those ballots, and they're allowing too much time to cure those ballots. There are 900,000 ghost ballots floating around in California that Judicial Watch is suing the California state government, the Secretary of State here, and that's the problem here. That's why there's so much distrust in the system, because it's not going to be till July 10th till Shirley Weber, the Secretary of State, has to certify its election. It's completely absurd, Elizabeth. I mean, nobody looks at this and thinks this is how it should be. And we've heard about, how mail-in is ripe with fraud from other nations that have tried it and ended that process. And then when they do it in a state like California, and you also have a state where I think Democrats have also spent all these years consolidating their power so that they cannot lose. It just adds to this feeling like this is a single-party state, and they're destroying our state.
Yes, well, they've been destroying our state since they've been in power for 16 years. We have the worst results to show for it. And election integrity in our election system is just one more example of that. Just like financial markets react to uncertainty, so does the public in a democracy when you don't have certainty in the final election result. And delay, by definition, regardless of whether there's provable fraud in this election right now, delay in and of itself is bad for certainty. Even Gavin Newsom himself said yesterday that he is upset with how long it takes to count the votes in California. And there's many reasons why that is. The Republicans are criticized for saying that we want less people to vote. And that's not true. There are trade-offs when your laws are so permissive, like what it is in California. You have trade-offs in how long it takes to count the votes and how secure the vote can be. And that's bad for overall confidence in the results for both sides.
Right. I got it. You're exactly right. What a mess it is. Susan, Elizabeth, thanks so much. We'll follow this election, see where it goes. All right. We got another election to talk about. In New Jersey's Deep Blue District 12, Egyptian-born Adam Hamawi has won a crowded primary to take the Democrat nomination, defeating roughly a dozen other candidates despite a close relationship with the convicted mastermind of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. Think about that. The Blind Sheik is a man Hamawi worked as this man's terrorist translator in the 1990s. He testified in the Blind Sheik's defense at trial and went on a road trip with him to Detroit for a conference where the Blind Sheik reportedly talked about conquering the land of the infidels. Yes, this man that worked with the Blind Sheik is now going to be in Congress. He also once volunteered in Bosnia with a nonprofit determined to be a front for al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden. And this man is going to be in Congress. Brent went to Trenton, New Jersey earlier today, the district that he will win, to see if voters have any idea who is about to represent them.
Here in New Jersey, the state's capital city is about to be represented in the U.S. Congress by Adam Hamawi, a man who once testified in defense of terrorist Omar Abdel Rahman, better known as the Blind Sheik, convicted in 1995 for seditious conspiracy against the United States and inciting the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center.
I didn't know nothing about his past.
I had no idea that, of that situation.
Did you know about his past?
No, and unfortunately, coming up in these type of environments, we don't know anything about our congressmen and our congressional leaders and stuff like that.
I'm not aware of him. I don't know about his background or anything.
I don't have any idea who you're talking about. I don't pay attention to that stuff.
Well, he's very likely going to be your next congressman representing you in Congress. And he also interned in Bosnia for an organization that ended up being raided by the U.S. government, and the U.S. government claimed that they were an affront for al-Qaeda.
Well, I'm not aware of that, and I would have to investigate more. They should let the public know more about his background.
He probably had no idea who this guy was dealing with, if he's a terrorist.
I think everybody deserves a second chance. I got a pass.
I don't know you, but I would assume you don't have a past where you were close with a convicted terrorist who inspired the 1993 World Trade Center bombing.
No.
Right.
Absolutely not. That's a little bit much.
Something else. I mean, you have terrorist sympathizers. I mean, it was one thing when we had Islamists get into Congress, and now you have people that straight up have a past as terrorist sympathizers getting into Congress. I mean, what are we doing as a country? Do we even care anymore? I mean, it's just surreal. He beat more than 12 people to get that nomination. Very blue district. He's going to get right into that seat. It's just surreal. All right, what Trump is doing in Washington, D.C. is what we all wish government would focus on more. So why so many complaints? Up next.
Mike Hammond of Signal Relief. We've helped nearly 700,000 feel relief in their back, shoulders, and knees with our technology. But for many of us, it's our feet that hurt. And when they hurt, our walks get shorter, activities are skipped, and the moments we love start slipping away. That's why we created the Signal Step, a patent-pending insole built using the same proven technology people already trust from Signal Relief. Signal uses no drugs. There's nothing on the market like it. It's relief without the side effects. It's reusable, fits virtually into any shoe, and in a recent study, over 85% felt relief, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Feel relief with every step. If you're hurting, go to signalstep.com and get relief today.
He's breathing. Okay, we're good.
Nearly 5,000 people die from choking each year. That's frightening. I'm Dr. Ben Carson.
And I'm Arthur Lee. But there are ways to help prevent choking. Accidents do happen. That's why I invented the Life Pack.
Anyone can use this device, and it can save a life in seconds.
Just place, push, and pull. It's that simple. Please order one for your home, office, car, anywhere you eat.
Go to lifehack.net or call 877-543-3822.
Summer is coming fast. Now you can get your best summer body in just one visit to Sono Bello, America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist.
This summer, I'm excited to not be covered up.
I've got abs again. Sono Bello put me in the right spot to just feel good again.
I feel beautiful. I went from this to this in just one visit.
I feel confident.
Micro laser technology permanently removes stubborn fat, tightens and tones skin in just one visit with less downtime.
My shirts were extra large. Now I'm wearing a bathing suit. It changed my life.
There's no more frustration, just permanent results.
My stomach is gone.
Sono Bello has over 50,000 5-star reviews and expert surgeons. Call now for your personalized consultation. That's over a $250 value. Free. Easy monthly payment options make your best body more affordable than ever. Step into summer with confidence. Call Sono Bello today.
What if you're sick at home or traveling and can't get medical help or prescriptions? Doctors say a medical emergency kit is the answer. Joining me is Dr. Drew.
Thank you. And yes, these kits put you in charge of your health. They come with physician-prescribed medication to treat multiple common and some serious issues as well.
What are some examples?
Sure. Generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, and other essential antibiotics and antivirals that treat flu, pneumonia, strep, ear infections, sinus infections, urinary tract infections, and more.
So it is like urgent care and a pharmacy at home?
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
How do you know what medicines to take?
You just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Sound advice. Order online in minutes at the website below and save $45. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
All right, welcome back. The president doing what he truly does best in D.C., that's building, right? The restoration of the city of Washington has been phenomenal. It's exactly what you wish government would do more of, and it's not getting nearly enough attention. The attention it's getting, a lot of it is negative. The massive 2,000-foot-long Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool has been a disaster for a very long time. It's gross, disgusting, it smells, it's got structural problems from the original construction, it's on soft and marshy ground. It needed this. Beautiful pictures we're now seeing of these pools now refilled. There's still, it takes a while to fill up a 2,000-foot-long pool, but look at it now. Look at how beautiful that looks. It's nice, it's dark, it's classy, it reflects. Looks fantastic. Doesn't look like all the dumb memes that you've seen on the internet. They actually sued to stop this from happening. That's how ridiculous the left is in this country. Trump also posting pictures as well of the process when they started the refilling. Little video there. Secretary of the Interior Doug Burgum actually posted this beautiful picture. Look at the reflection at night. Look at how beautiful that is. They sued to stop that from happening because they listen to people like this.
I honestly think it's just about him. It's his ego, and he's saying, well, I did this because he has no control of the government, so at least he can control the grounds because they don't have any answer in response. Seeing all this, it's sad.
Oh, I have no idea who she voted for. Congressman Pat Fallon, member of the Congressional America 250 Caucus, joins us now. Good to see you, sir. You guys are all doing a fantastic. That city looks so good. We can show the pictures. We got them of the memorial, some of the statues and the fountains that have been cleaned up. It looks fantastic. This is what people want government to do, right?
Oh, Rob, that you're absolutely right. And I'm surprised you're at that clip. That woman didn't have a mask on. But yeah, like President Trump knows what he's doing. He's a talented CEO who gets skilled people with ability, and then he delegates the task, and everybody's on mission. I mean, the reflecting pool was supposed to cost allegedly $300 million plus. He did it for $2 million. And you can use that money to, I don't know, restore 28 statues and fountains around the city. And look at what he's done with the crime rates. I mean, in D.C. alone, Rob, the murder rate's down 66%, carjackings are down 82%, and crime overall is down 33%. That is due to Donald.
And they're furious about it.
I know.
And they're enraged that he's cleaning it up.
You know why? Because they hate President Trump more than they love their country. And that in and of itself is as telling as it is sad.
That's so perfectly said. I mean, it's so nice to see. You know, I mean, those pictures that we just showed of the reflecting pool were embarrassing, filled with the goop and and algae and green. It just looked at, people said it smelled like a wet dog. It's just amazing. I got to leave it there because I'm just purely out of time. But Congressman Pat Fallon, thanks for the hard work in D.C. The city looks great. You get to enjoy it. You get to live there. So, I mean, that's wonderful. Good to see you, sir.
Thanks, Rob. Take care. God bless.
Under the direction of the Trump administration, the U.S. Postal Service is proposing a major change to absentee voting by mail, including creating new lists of which voters are eligible to do so in an effort to end fraud in this manner of voting, which is very susceptible to fraud. Most countries don't allow this kind of stuff. Under the new proposal, each state's top election official would add names of voters eligible to vote by mail, along with the barcodes associated with such individuals' mail-in or absentee ballots. The goal, of course, is to allow law enforcement officials to compare the total number of mailed ballots to the total number of received ballots to detect potential issues meriting further investigation. The rule also stating states would retain full control over who would be able to vote by mail in federal elections within each state, as states would control enrollment with the Postal Service for inclusion on the state's mail-in and absentee participation list. So to explain further what exactly is happening here, Dick Morris joins us now. You're fascinated by this like I am. Tell us about this, Dick.
Well, this is a brilliant move by Trump. He said that I've been protesting about mail-in voting and the potential for fraud, but the mail is carried by the post office, and I control that. And I can use that to crack down on fraud and make sure that we're not just sending ballots to vacant lots or to garbage dumps, which then reappear in the hands of illegals who claim to be voters. And by cracking down through the post office, he's opening a whole new front in dealing with mail-in voting. And it's very exciting.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine. I mean, how much of this kind of fraud do you think is happening in this country? I've heard in California that there's just ballots everywhere, and nobody cleans the rolls, and houses are getting several ballots from people that have lived there years ago. Exactly, and parking lots are getting ballots, and voters who've died 20 years ago are getting ballots, and many of them are voting. The point is that with the illegal immigrant population in the U.S. that Homan was just talking about, 20 or 30 million people, you have a large numbers of bodies that could vote and say, hi, I'm Dick Morris, I'm here to vote. And unless you have photo ID for in-person voting, you can't control it. But how do you control mail-in voting? And what Trump is doing is setting up a list before Election Day of who's eligible for mail-in votes to make sure the ballots only go to those people, and to make sure that when they send them back, they send in evidence that they received the ballot from the post office, so that you can really crack down on illegal voting by mail. Yeah, that is something. All right, Dick Morris, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, coming up here after the break, nothing says socialist like spending $10,000 to attend a Knicks game. Next in News from the Left.
Identity theft has become the country's most frequent crime.
I opened my account and $30,000 is missing.
$21,000 just gone.
Every 5 seconds, another American becomes a victim of identity theft. Every 5 seconds.
My accounts were being emptied, money was being transferred everywhere.
The question now isn't if your data's at risk, it's how to protect yourself once it's been exposed.
The police didn't believe me. The banking institution didn't believe me.
So what can you do to protect yourself and your family? The leader in identity theft protection is LifeLock.
Once LifeLock got involved, everything changed.
With LifeLock, if your identity is stolen, they'll step in and fix it so you don't have to, guaranteed. Our highly trained U.S.-based restoration specialists contact institutions, dispute fraudulent charges, close compromised accounts, and even procure legal support far beyond the capabilities of your bank or credit card company.
LifeLock pursued this case further than I ever would have imagined.
If you call right now, you'll get LifeLock for just $9.99 a month for your first year. All LifeLock memberships include the $1 Million Protection Package. Our members receive reimbursement for stolen funds and personal expenses, like lost wages, as well as coverage for lawyers and experts up to $3 million in total.
When the bank refused to reimburse my stolen money, the $1 Million Protection Package came through for me.
Our restoration guarantee and $1 million protection package are included in all memberships with no additional fees. Plus, LifeLock now includes protection against scams.
I think it's natural to think that you can do this on your own. You can't.
Call 1-800-360-9220 and use promo code GET35 or go to lifelock.com/get35 to join today.
At Allegiance, we do it differently. Flags 100% made in America by Americans with American materials.
We're proud to create jobs right here in South Carolina. It might not be the easiest way, but it's the right way.
We make American flags the way they should be made, where they should be made.
Join our pledge to keep the American flag truly American.
Visit showallegiance.com to get your high-quality American flag today. That's showallegiance.com.
The Dutton Ranch. We're back in business.
You heard right. Let's go to work. I'm glad you're making friends, honey.
You're every bit as advertised.
You're damn right, yes.
Fighting a good fight, buddy.
Back with a little breaking news on this Friday night. We've been talking a lot about Graham Platner, right? He's got this really strong message in the state of Maine. He wants to be the next senator. He wants to get Susan Collins out. This is like the dream guy for Democrats. He's hosting a rally right now amid all of this controversy that he has been going through. And we're going to show you a little bit of this rally to show you just exactly what they've, again, kind of manufactured out of this candidate, this former rich kid who is now kind of the working man's hero in Maine. Let's take a listen.
And pays over 60% of her monthly income in rent alone. There is no metric of hard work that justifies the existence of billionaires when I know people who work 4 jobs who can barely hold it together. They work hard. People down here scraping it, that's hard work. Sitting on your wealth and using it to change the rules just so you can make more, that is not work. There is a story. But the crazy thing is it didn't have to be this way.
All right, that's Bar Harbor, Maine right there. And you're listening to exactly what we were talking about. This is his whole idea is just about affordability and how billionaires are evil. He's a bit of a socialist. But again, this is a rich kid whose dad bought him a house, went to an $80,000 private school as a kid. It's an interesting story coming out of Maine. But they have, again, manufactured this candidate that's hitting really well with the voters. But can he survive his just horrific personal life is the $1 million question, and a Nazi tattoo. We'll see. All right, time now for an abbreviated news from the left. Anna Navarro, The View, has become such a delusional dumpster fire of a TV show. You wonder how much longer ABC can continue to put this on television. Take a listen to this.
I never thought in my entire life I would see U.S. citizens killed for exercising their right to protest, like they killed Alex Preddy and Renee Good in the streets of Minneapolis, or small 5-year-old children used as human bait. Thousands of children are being held in detention centers all over this country in deplorable conditions. They are dying from lack of medical care. They are getting sick from dirty water.
It's honestly just incredible. Every single story that you just heard is a complete lie. All of those stories are just a total fabrication. She just lists them off one after the other. All of those have been just clearly debunked. And she just barks all this out on ABC. So completely abandoned from reality. And again, this is on ABC. At some point, ABC is going to have to answer for this show. But in the meantime, these 5 clowns continue blabbering every single day to bored housewives. It is just surreal what they can just say. And ABC just signs off on it. Yeah, just say whatever the hell you want. Act like, you know, you've got some kind of credibility. There's none left on that show. It's just amazing to listen to. All right, finally, this abbreviated news from the left on this Friday night. New York Socialist Mayor Zoran Mamdani says he's going to the NBA Finals Game 3 Monday in New York. Mamdani telling 1010 Wins, local radio station here in New York this morning, he's going to pay for his own ticket to Game 3 of the Finals at Madison Square Garden Monday. He says he won't be courtside or in a suite, but he can't wait to see the game. Now, the cheapest tickets to Game 3 are coming in around $7,000 to $8,000. And doesn't that just scream socialism to you? You got this kid spending probably $10,000 of his mom's money to go watch competitive sports, something that just gushes with capitalism. Again, we talked about this last week. Sports, like how is Mamdani a social? How are these socialist sports fans? Sports is like cutthroat, competitive. The weak fall through the cracks. Only the best get to the top. Sports is everything that capitalism is, and it's also full of advertising and everything else. And Mamdani's a huge Knicks fan. I mean, where's the equity team, Mamdani? You should be rooting for the equity team. Where's the equity team that's got the fat Asian women on it and all the short guys? That should be the team that Mamdani roots for, not the Knicks, not the best of the best that make $50 million a year. And when's he going to start calling for them to all be taxed at 90%? Trump also going. He's going to watch the first home game since 1999. He'll be in the suite. You can count on that. All right, coming up here after the break, Trump's latest move to overhaul the deep state.
Closed captioning brought to you by MagnaLife Pain and Inflammation Relief Roll-On.
Your muscle and joint inflammation is real. Here's what real customers are saying about MagnaLife Pain and Inflammation Relief Roll-On. It worked great.
Available at your local retailer.
The human brain is truly incredible. It's a complex network of 100 billion neurons that create cognitive functions surpassing that of supercomputers. Our brain controls our thoughts, our emotions, and our movements. Prevagen contains apoaquarin, originally discovered in jellyfish, and is designed specifically for the brain to help keep it amazing, so that we can continue to live our best life. Prevagen, for your brain.
This little light of mine, in the dark found a hopeful sign.
For those with depression not getting enough relief from their antidepressant, adding Caplyta can help you let in the light, providing greater relief from depression symptoms than an antidepressant alone. And unlike some medications, Caplyta is also proven to deliver significant symptom relief from both bipolar 1 and 2 depression.
Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke. Caplyta is not approved for dementia-related psychosis. Call your doctor about new or sudden mood changes, behaviors, or suicidal thoughts right away. Antidepressants may increase these risks. Report fever, confusion, stiff muscles, which may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High cholesterol and weight gain may occur, as can high blood sugar, which may be fatal. Common side effects are sleepiness, dizziness, nausea, dry mouth, feeling tired, and diarrhea. These aren't all the side effects.
Ask your doctor about Caplyta.
Help see more of the light inside of me.
It's me, Ricky. You grew up with me. I am using Fatty 15 to get me to feel and look the best I've ever felt at my age. The C15 nutrient has been known to strengthen our cells and slow the aging process at a cellular level. I urge you to try Fatty 15.
Stop. Check this out. Our most advanced performance frame, Talon, is out. It's a bestseller. We just got it back in stock, and I want to show you a little bit about it. These come with our signature lost and broken protection, and you can try them risk-free for 30 days. Check them out at shadyrays.com.
Doctors say having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care and pharmacy at home. Let me bring in Dr. McCullough to explain more.
Most people know when they're getting sick, but waiting to see a doctor is often too late.
So the key is having medicines before you need them.
Yes, and it includes doctor-prescribed medicines to treat common and serious issues like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, antibiotics, antivirals for flu, pneumonia, strep, ear and sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
So it is like having an urgent care at home.
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications and hospitalizations.
How do you know what to take?
Just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Great advice. I understand ordering is fast online, and we've put the website and $45 off code on the screen. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
Spring. It's time to run it. Run it until the grass becomes a lawn, until the hedges duck and cover. Then run it again.
As a neurologist, my patients are often concerned with age-related memory decline. I recommend Cunol Brain Health with 2 powerful, high-absorption ingredients clinically shown to improve memory, focus, attention, and more. Cunol, the brand I trust.
And finally tonight, the president renewing calls to cut the fat out of the federal government, focusing now on the intelligence community. Trump telling the Wall Street Journal that he told Bill Pulte, his new acting director of national intelligence, that he believes the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, which oversees 18 federal agencies, intel agencies. He says that's far too big, that office. He says, I'd like to see it smaller. I think there are a lot of people in there that shouldn't be there, he says. Trump saying he wants Pulte to start the process of firing some of these people. Fred Fleitz is a former Trump National Security Council Chief of Staff and CIA analyst, joins us now. Fred, you wrote a piece before this actually happened in the Wall Street Journal. The next DNI must finish the job and eliminate the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. You say the CIA should be restored as the head of intelligence for the United States. Let's start with that and why you think this change needs to happen.
Well, this is such an incredibly wasteful office. It was created after 9/11 to get intelligence agencies to cooperate. It was supposed to be a small coordinating office. I don't think it was needed. It was supposedly to address the 9/11 intelligence failures. But it now has thousands of employees, a giant Taj Mahal headquarters in expensive Tyson's Corner, Virginia. You know how expensive real estate is there. And it has become an intelligence producer. It not only oversees intelligence, it produces very politicized analysis of intelligence, including on the China virus, which have become very controversial over the last couple of years. And we know the slanted analysis on Russian meddling in the 2016 election, that came out of the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. President Trump is exactly right. I've been calling for this for years. In fact, I was interviewed for this job in the first Trump administration, and I told him I wanted to be the last DNI, and I wanted to shut down the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. I hope Pulte puts us on the road to doing that.
So is it just DNI? You know, I've never really thought about what it is, but is it just somebody kind of between the president and the CIA director?
This person is officially head of all 18 intelligence agencies, and the ODNI, the also DNI, is one of them. But what's going on right now? The president's chief intelligence advisor is the CIA director. That's the way it's been for almost the entire past 65, 70 years, because Radcliffe has been a reliable expert on national intelligence. He was on the House Intelligence Committee. Radcliffe has proved with his efficiency as Trump's advisor that we don't need a DNI.
You don't need a DNI. That's interesting. Very interesting stuff. Fred Fleitz, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Good to be here.
All right. That's all for us tonight. Finnerty is up next, and we'll see you back here on Monday. Have a nice, warm weekend.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.